Today, we're going to be discussing how transparency on aviation CO2 emissions can be improved so that travel distribution platforms can present this information to consumers and customers. If we did have this more transparency, the big question then following is, how could travel intermediaries use this information? How should they use this information? And perhaps the biggest question, do consumers actually want this information? Would they do anything with it?
We see that citizens actually today already want transparency. Citizens want to know the environmental footprint of their travel. They are asking for it, and EASA has conducted in 2020 a survey asking in 18 European countries, more than 9,000 respondents, about their view on environment and aviation. And the result couldn't have been clearer. 3 out of 4 respondents said that they would like to receive more transparent information on their air travel.
As Transport and Environment, T&E, we do believe that there is a future for aviation in the future travel world, because it has a lot of opportunities to get green. Especially now with the COVID and the pandemic, I think, and all the financial aid that's been given to the sector, I think, the sector owes it to taxpayers to clean up. And there are a number of initiatives like the one that Kai just presented to make people aware of the climate impact of aviation. And those initiatives are key to drive change in behavior. So rewarding, the reputation of those that actually invest in clean technologies and actually punishing those who don't. But it's important to get these initiatives right, especially because in the aviation sector, there is a high risk of greenwashing.
I believe that shifting this consumer demand is what is then needed to incentivize and reward the industry partners that we work with, which will in turn help accelerate the supply of sustainable air travel. If we can clearly communicate to those in the supply chain that travelers are more likely to select a flight option if it's more sustainable, it helps to push that supply of more sustainable options forward.
We have a next question from the audience. This is a question for Magnus. It's from Christian Mueller. So looking at the reluctance to share certain information by airlines and the need to get information in neutral comparison systems to have all information available to achieve transparency, should it be mandatory for all suppliers to share certain information? Magnus?
Yes, people always look at the European Commission when it comes to making things mandatory.
Indeed.
Well, that's not our, believe it or not, that's not our first option. We would like to first see if a voluntary approach is working, and that's precisely why we're working on we've asked the EASA to work on a labeling system, also to provide on a voluntary basis such information. And as we heard Sam and others say, that clearly there is a increased commercial interest as well, because the customers are increasingly demanding this type of transparency. So I think it wouldn't be our first option at this stage, but at the same time, of course, it cannot be ruled out that certain requirements have to be met.
Anders, what do you think about this idea to make sharing that information mandatory?
To be honest, I think it's a brilliant idea. At some point, I think it should be. And I think also a little point in terms of intermodality. I think the next sort of forefront that we should struggle towards is life cycle assessments, and also to make different modes of transports comparable. Because at the moment, I think there's a lot of feelings about this, but if you start to take into account, so for instance, a very concrete debate going on in Norway is whether we should build a new railway in the north. This is highly debated. That will cut emissions, but it will take between 31 and 37 years to offset all the emissions from the steel and the concrete of building the infrastructure.
For sure, for consumers out there, this is of course a highly sophisticated topic where one has to find a way to handle it. One element certainly would be, I think, Dave, you mentioned this idea. Okay, there would be something very visual somewhere as a score, and then additional information being provided for those who are interested to dig deeper and deep dive into the topic. So that could be one way of dealing with that, providing access to the latest scientific understanding.
Unfortunately, most of the offsets that have been agreed by CORSI and ICAO, they don't meet all of the sustainability criteria, especially not the additionality part. And it's like, I always use this example of going to the gym. You're on a diet, you want to lose weight, but you're paying someone else to go to the gym for you. And you're not even sure that this person is actually going to the gym, or if he or she wasn't going to the gym in any case.